Call meeting order and welcome everybody to the April meeting. Apologies we have from Councillor Egan and I suppose Leah Daly.
Yes, okay. Yep, anyway.
Somebody move that we accept those apologies. And then Councillor Mulligan, Councillor Colton, those in favour say aye. Aye. Carried. I'd like somebody to leave a confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, if I could have a mover. Thank you. Councillor Galvin and seconded Councillor Smith. Put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now, I should have done this in the welcome, shouldn't I? Welcome Darius Turner, and we were discussing when we met before, and it turns out it was probably, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, Darius, was it? Yeah, a long time ago. You were working at Willoughby Council, weren't you? Yeah. But anyway, I have run into you since then, but welcome to our meeting. And now I'm going to hand over to you for your presentation.
Thank you. I might just give a brief
introduction
before Darius starts. When the La Nina rain really started hitting us, we had an influx of customer requests centred around nuisance stormwater, and the more it rained, the more complaints that came through. The stormwater budget that we have each year is generally set at what we receive from the $25 we levy per residential lot in Warrior and Bingra, which nets us about $39,000 a year. This year we've got a budget of around $80,000, and next year's budget is a similar figure, so we have improved that figure. We saw the need to be a little bit more strategic about how we are addressing stormwater problems. Previously it had been a little bit of a squeaky wheel, getting grease situation, and we saw as the problem grew that we needed to have a targeted approach to getting on top of stormwater problems, and also to quantify the number of problems and the nature of the problems, whether they were issues that were nuisance only, whether they were ones that were potentially causing infrastructure damage, all things that we didn't know. So we engaged the services of Darius, who went out to the community and put a slip in just about everybody's mailbox in both Warrior and Bingra, and Darius led the charge from there. We had a couple of deliberative panels, some members of the community. I think that's probably enough of an introduction, because I don't want to eat
cut into my presentation.
Yeah, what Darius has got to say. But I will point out to Councillor Dixon, that's Bombelli Street.
Thank you very much.
Front and centre in the presentation. Over to you, Darius.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you everyone for having me here. Love coming to Grider Show, and really good to be back again. So this presentation won't take too much time, probably about 10 to 15 minutes, and it is on the screen as well. And what I'll run you through is I'll run you through the process that we undertook, and then the outcomes from the engagement, and then ultimately what we came up with was a list of issues and priorities, and then we've now got a bit of an action plan going forward. So I might just move to the side if that's okay, just so everyone can see the screen okay. So Alex has already touched on this, the need for engagement. So obviously, depends on what the issue is, but every council across New South Wales and Australia faces this. You'll get complaints and inquiries, and sometimes it can be a bit of a squeaky wheel. So Alex and the team really wanted to find out how much of an issue stormwater was, and was it affecting the whole population, or was it just potentially a number of residents, and how widespread it was. So we came up with an engagement approach, and that was to do 2 phases of engagement. So the first phase was to reach as many people as we could, and obviously not everyone can commit to a citizens panel. So a citizens panel, what we were asking, and I'll get into more detail, was for people to come and meet us in person for several hours and have detailed discussions about stormwater. Now obviously busy people don't necessarily have time to do that. Some people will make the time. So what we did, I personally, it was 2 great days actually. I did a letterbox drop of every property in Bingra and in Warriata, and I think it was December, the start of December. I think it was about 30 degrees, and I had it on my Garmin, and I think I did about 25 Ks each day, so the drinks at the pub across the road were quite good that night. But we reached as many people as we could, and on the postcards, and I might flick back and forward a little bit, we did a fact sheet and a postcard. Did anyone receive these in your letterboxes, can you recall? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we tried to reach as many people as we could, and people that we couldn't reach on the outskirts of the towns themselves, we delivered to by Australia Post, but we were mainly focused on the actual towns, so not the more rural properties. So we had a fact sheet which outlined council's approach to stormwater, what stormwater is, how you could be involved in the project, and we're also asking people to either fill out the postcard or commit to taking part in the citizens panel. So I'll just jump back in. So we also had a static web page on council's website where people could get the information and also provide feedback through the website or through an email address. Alrighty. So the outcomes of the letterbox job and the online web page, we actually only received 12 submissions from community members. So that was a little bit surprising to us. So with the extent of the reach of the engagement and based on the feedback that Alex's team had been getting during those periods of extreme wet weather, we thought that we might have received more. But I do dozens and dozens of engagement projects a year, sometimes the amount is actually a really good test about how it's not saying the issue isn't important, it obviously is really important, but about the sentiment in the community and kind of how important it is for different parts of the community. So that was quite a good indication for us. So we got 12 submissions back, we received some images, we received photos by email, and the key themes that we received through those submissions, and it wasn't surprising, was that there was some minor damage to people's personal properties. So some quotes we received were the stormwater runoff leaves about 3 to 4 inches of water on residential properties. If I did not step in, it would come inside the house. Water pools on the curb, and sometimes the curb and gutter isn't high enough to hold back the water, so it runs over. And there's some rust coming to our property, but that's from a neighbouring property. So what we received, we only received about 12 submissions, and it wasn't that widespread, but some of these submissions were things that council already knew in terms of historically when it's a big rain event you can go outside and see, but also some of the problems were coming from neighbours' properties, so not necessarily a council issue. So people who potentially don't have things in place on their own properties, and then the water goes down to the next property. So that just gave us a bit of evidence around that. Water pooling on roads, I'm sure you've all seen that during the events when it's a lot of water, and blocked pipes as well, which is something we will address a bit later in the presentation. So all of that information was, to be honest, it's probably information council already knew, but it just kind of confirmed that. But the fact that we didn't get inundated with submissions shows that potentially it's not that huge a priority for some of the residents. And happy to take comment or questions on that. So the next part of the presentation is around the citizens panel. So we're called out to a citizens panel. So what a citizens panel is, usually you would have this type of arrangement when it's a more complex issue. And the reason it's complex stormwater is because it's different for all different parts of the town. The impacts are different for different people, but really it's around funding as well. That was one of the key things that we talked about. So Alex already mentioned the 40K budget a year. So one of the key things we talked about in the panel and that we wanted to address was, yes, we have identified all these problems, but how can council then prioritise them and seek funding for them? So our citizens panel met on 2 occasions. They were for about 2.5 hours each. And our makeup was 9 people put their hand up to take part. We had 4 from Bingra and 5 from Warialda, and from the photo I'm sure you probably can recognise a few of the faces there. And what we found from the panel was most of the people who decided to take part in the panel were people who were directly impacted on their properties from stormwater. So that's a little bit different to what you would usually use a citizens panel for. Usually you just use the citizens panel for kind of a contentious issue in the community and you get people together to debate the different perspectives. And what we found was that the people who put their hands up were all people who were directly impacted. But because they put their hands up, we said, let's go ahead, let's meet with them, let's discuss the issues and find out more. And that's what we did. So the issues that were identified through the panel sessions were sewage leaks from stormwater issues, pipes blocked, some of the overland infrastructure, there was some commentary around that, water pooling on roads, people's individual properties flooding, that it's been a long-term issue, there's erosion to land, property damage, poor connection to stormwater in some places. And also something that came up that we'll address a little bit later is around the communication between the community and the council staff. So ultimately we put to the panel to come up with their issues, but then to come up with some recommendations. So I'll just quickly walk through these with you. So the panel suggested that council go away and do an assessment of and a long-term strategy about how we're going to address stormwater issues, and that's something that we've done, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. Council investigate other areas of funding. So the panel members did react to the budget of stormwater, and it sounds like that's been increased, Alex, now from when we met with the panel. And they also identified that the issues that they've raised are going to take more money than that 40k that council currently has in the budget. The panel wanted issues addressed in order of priority, so whose priority that is, I'll let you be the judge of that. And then there is a note, Alex, I didn't know if you want to talk to this about, there is a council property in Warrialda that does have some stormwater issues. Did you want to talk to that now, or?
Yes, the aged care units in Plunkett Street, there's a stormwater issue from runoff from there that's been outstanding for a number of years. In the last 12 months, it hasn't been a problem at all. In the 2 years prior to that, it has been a problem. I think that that's something we're going to move towards the top of our list, so that we have our own affairs in order and we deal with runoff from our own properties.
I see Mel Jensen's at that meeting, and she's the one that owns a house there. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the participants that was, so basically each of the participants came to the panel with basically one or two issues that impacted them that they wanted council to address. And one of the good news stories is I understand quite a few of those were addressed immediately prior from that workshop.
Yes.
So the engagement kind of created a further avenue to kind of understand the issues and address them. But council is constantly addressing stormwater issues on a week-to-week basis as they come up as well.
Yeah, certainly. A lot of the things were grates that were blocked that we weren't aware that had been blocked. It could have been a phone call in a CRM system.
That's what I was going to say.
Could have been fixed. But brought to a deliberative panel through all of this process and was subsequently addressed quickly. What's left are the bigger ticket items that are going to take significant investment. But in fact,
yeah, and we'll get to that. I've only got one more slide left, so then we'll get to those issues. So the other panel recommendations were complete temporary fixes of promised works, which I understand have been now completed. Priorities to be shared across both of the towns. So that's probably more of an overall comment about how council addresses different issues. Communication and customer services in the community to be improved. So, and a specific contact to be allocated to stormwater issues. And then when there is a stormwater event, someone from council outside the works manager to physically view the problems as they happen. And so Alex and I have had a discussion about that taking place during those events. So with all of that being said, to wrap it all up quite neatly, what we've created out of that panel and that engagement process is this piece of paper, this document that's in front of you here on the table.
Yeah.
So ultimately what that does, it identifies the issues that were raised in the panel, and then subsequently we've met with Alex and the engineering team and costed and provided a council response to those issues that have been raised. We'll also circulate a soft copy of the detailed engagement report that came out of the panel for you to review in good time. But what the document in front of you shows is that there are probably approximately $1 million for Bingra and about 600K worth of work for Warrialda over time. And Alex, you might be better to talk to this, but I guess the strategy, could you talk to maybe the strategy
certainly.
for funding?
The big ticket items, and I think I might have discussed this at the last council meeting, the drainage behind the businesses in Maple Street. There is no road reserve, no formal drainage. To address that is going to be a very big ticket item. It's been a problem as long as those buildings have been there. And I don't think that, and I think that means it's not something we need to rush into and allocate $1 million of general fund money to address. I think realistically, we need to be able to have that on our radar, and it's a high priority for our citizens panel and community engagement. Just be actively on the lookout for grants to fund those big ticket items. It's the only way that they're going to get done. Certainly the smaller items, when they're projects that can be addressed for between $10,000 and $80,000, we can buy them off one a year. That's a very simple way to do it.
Alex, well, there's a few things that are pretty obvious here. We've gone through a La Nina event and Darren's. And this is going to fade into insignificance while it's dry, and then it'll come back again, and people don't complain until it actually happens. And you're right, I think this engagement with council annoyed me a bit, because you've only got to ring up somebody, ring a councillor or ring a staff member, and like you say, there's a drain needs cleaning, it'll be done. But that amount of money, obviously it has to be staged. And do you think that, if you can collect about 40 grand a year in that rate, that we could match it dollar for dollar and do 80,000 a year?
So that's our proposed budget for next year does exactly that.
Right.
And I think that's a very good measure to go back to the community and the members of the panel with. So, we've gone through this process, and to address everything immediately simply is totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
But by matching dollar for dollar the contribution from the stormwater levy, we'll get through things twice as quickly as we otherwise would have. I think that's some pretty good middle ground.
Does that levy rise with the rate rise?
No.
No. Darius, I know that Alex in particular has been very pleased with your work, and it's obvious you've done a good job. He made, I think, the ultimate comment to me the other day, in that if we had to get anyone, we'd get you. So
Thanks, Mr.
that was a nice thing to say about your work. Is there any other questions from anybody? It's frightening, the figure, isn't it? 1.6 million.
And I'll just make the point before we close out that since this process has taken place, we've taken calls from people that have got nuisance stormwater issues that didn't get involved with this process, and that's a real frustration.
That's life. That's
It is. It is.
Yeah.
We can do after the fact.
But how do you address the problem where it's not a council issue, it's a neighbour? Do we need to get involved with that? Or,
We have addressed that previously by collecting the stormwater levy. There is an obligation for us to address inter-allotment drainage.
Right.
But as Max will quote Rylands v Fletcher, which is one of the few pearls of wisdom that I picked up from his brain, there was also an obligation for a landowner to be responsible for what they collect and retain on their own land. So previously we've done a number of measures, from fixing the problem to discussing the issue with the neighbours, and the neighbours addressing. There was one Market Street Warrialda, I think it was, where we had independently 3 ratepayers come to council all complaining about basically the same issue. Those 3 ratepayers, after we realised that this is actually a common problem for 3 adjacent properties, they put their own drainage system in.
That'd be rare.
That varies.
Yeah.
So in the panel did discuss about some education, but they also made the comments depending on who you're dealing with,
Yeah.
you know, what particular property it is,
Yeah.
then it's a really challenging one for council and for the council team.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Can I ask, please, what's the responsibility of landholders in terms of stormwater? Is it to direct it to a place where it can be collected by council?
No, on a rural property, you're not supposed to direct it anywhere but where it would normally flow to the waterway it would flow to. I don't know, Alex, you'd be.
So I'm not
What
sure
about you know?
which act it's explicitly stated in, and Max can probably chip in here, but in urban areas, generally the responsibility is to get it to the curb.
Could.
Yes.
Yeah.
The big problem in Wariata and Bingara, and it's historical right across rural areas, that the inter-allotment drainage wasn't worked out when the places were established.
No.
Going back now, people that don't have a drainage problem, they don't want you to go across their land to fix someone else's problem. I mean, that's the reality of it. And it becomes very expensive to try to retrofit things that should have been done in a perfect world when the subdivision was first undertaken.
That's true. What's the problem with the slab at Moriala? There's a photo of it there.
Nothing from a stormwater perspective. I think it was just a happy snap of Hope Street.
All taken on dry days.
No, it's a lovely photo. I'll give it that.
It's just to give indications.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kilometres of road.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if there's no further questions of Darius.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
a question of Alex, just to confirm when you start a job to do a stormwater job, it's best to do the whole job, not just start it because you've got a limited amount of money. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, don't do $80,000
Yeah.
and stop.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
a $100,000
So
job, yeah.
Certainly.
We've got to plan it properly.
There are some projects you can stage, and we did it in from Stephen Street down into High Street. Councillor Carlton, you better refresh my memory there. And if you start from the uphill and work down, staging is okay.
Mr Councillor here you're talking about.
Sorry, yes. But if you're not in a position where you can start up and work down, then yes, you're absolutely right. It needs to be bitten off in one entire bite. Now, whether that is done by virtue of we identify a project costed at $150,000 and put that in our stormwater budget for a future year, and then council considers whether that's expenditure that we want to use. I guess it's up to a future year's budget.
So even in dry times you'll get storms, probably one a year where water will run, and that's going to refresh everyone's memory. But what I was going to suggest was that maybe it might be better to let the pool grow a bit, do a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and then do some extensive work.
Possibly, and perhaps we have Max angling, and I might look right into the stick there, Max. But the issues with stormwater at the back of the businesses in Maitland Street, there's no way you can spend $40,000 a year addressing that problem. That has to be done in a $500,000 hit or $1 million hit, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah.
But there's other issues you could fix up at the back there. We could create, a proper car parking, but that requires the cooperation of all the owners because the lots are long and narrow and go all the way often through to the laneway.
Yeah.
And also the McGregors, the work that they undertake at the back there doesn't help. I mean, it's really messy, and when it rains, it's just, really messy.
Anyway, that is a possibility, I think. Let it jackpot a bit and then do a big job. I think the residents understand. If anyone's looked at our budget, they'll understand.
And I think that looking at the long-term weather forecast and the talk of going back to El Nino, it's an opportune time
I do too.
to do exactly what you're describing.
You got anything you want to add to that, Darius?
Just the final comment would be that council can now say you've kind of done a comprehensive engagement to people in each town. We understand the issues and now we have an action plan. And I think it'd be good to circulate this, if council's happy to do that, to circulate it back to the panel and potentially put it back on that project website for the whole community to see that there's a bit of an action plan going forward, and maybe just some steps to who to contact when there's stormwater events, and that's it.
Well, yeah, we've got community meetings coming up, so it might be a good idea to mention this, let them know what our thinking is. Yeah.
Not something we can use a little bit of self-help. And that's,
Well, I dare say.
some people you wouldn't want them doing it, but if the council was
Yeah.
able to, well, I suppose it depends on the sort of work you need to do, but I don't know.
I don't think there's any reason that we should limit self-help to gravel roads. I think anywhere that somebody's willing to kick
Well,
the can a little bit, we should encourage it.
Yeah, it might be, some people around town are fairly handy and have machinery that we could, if it's going to help them, it might help them. I don't know. It's good
One
to-
advantage of a rural shire, isn't it, that there is a bit of gear. People have got a bit of gear.
Yeah, but sometimes just cooperating is self-help.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
that's the biggest trouble. Yeah.
Don't legislate against for that, Max. Right, well, thank you, Darius. Thank you very much for your time and for your effort, and we'll run into you again sometime.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you, everyone.
You're welcome to stay for
Thanks
your
very
lunch,
much.
but we're going to get on to a boring meeting now.
I've got a running session with Central Coast this afternoon.
Ah,
so-
yeah, right. You got to go. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Have a good meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mate.
Take care.
Bye.
See you, travel safe.
Okay, we'll move on and a call for declarations of interest, gifts received and conflicts of interest. This is always difficult when we're doing a budget, I know, and we all have some sort of interest, whether it be in a showground or what, but
They're essentially less than significant.
they're very
on
minor,
pecuniary
yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
Although I do have an interest in the mayoral, which I should
Okay, yeah,
if it's accepted onto the agenda for discussion.
yeah, well, that'll come up in a minute. Okay, so we're not recording any declarations at this stage. Now, we do have one additional late item, and that is the mayoral minute. Can I ask the meeting if somebody'd like to move that be accepted onto the agenda? Councillor Colton and seconded Councillor Mulligan. Thank you. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Now that, you'll see point 7, we're transferring that to the confidential session. So we can go on to, straight on to officers' reports and the budget workshop minute. Is there any discussion on this? The only thing we didn't really go through was fees and charges at last meeting. But they've all gone up mostly in line with the rate peg, which needs to happen. I suppose as an overview, we're running, there's a deficit, but the deficit is exactly the same amount as the depreciation figure.
Or general fund.
The general fund, yes. Is there any comment on that on the budget?
So fees and charges and the budget are on display. They're all up on our website and are on display for their 28 days are already ticking. So in May, the op plan and that will be done and go on to display as well.
Made a slight saving of 87,000 on the budget or cut. Is there any more that we need to know about the Bingra office construction?
We've commissioned a company to do the QA assessment.
Oh, good.
So,
How long
and
will that be?
that should take no more than 4 weeks.
Right, so then we'll know the cost. Yeah. Okay, well, if you're all happy, I'd ask for a mover of the recommendation from the budget workshop be adopted. Councillor Galvin, a bit of reluctance here, I can see.
No, I'm just trying to find a page, sorry.
All right, Councillor Matthews seconded that. Is there any discussion before I put it? Not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye. Aye. No, carried, thank you. Rates and investment report.
So this is just a standard monthly report that I can take any questions from, if anyone has anything.
All right. Anything from anybody? Probably like me, still trying to find the page.
interest rates are slowly creeping up. We are still rolling our National Australia Bank term deposits monthly because the interest rates are going up. And we have put the submission in, we've started the paperwork to get the loans for the sewer extension for sewer fund and the $5 million to cover the cash flow for all our road projects and to also coincide with the building of the office building. We've done that as a joint loan for roads and...
This might be out of this report, I guess, but I believe the use of the bond that's paid at Nauru has changed. Is that right? Do we get to invest that still? Or?
No, the rules that we don't have a lot of bond paying residents as
There's a little bit of money there, though.
Yeah, so and it goes directly back to Nauru.
But at one time we were able to. Oh yeah, righto.
Yeah, so it's invested. It's part of of the total direct investments and the cash at bank. It used to be in T Corp as well, so that money does get invested, and the interest earned on that does go directly back to Nauru.
And then when the time comes, that money's refunded with.
Yes.
But we get the use of the interest that is accrued on it.
During that time, yes, but unfortunately, the interest rate that we're required to pay on those bonds when from the time of death of the resident and we receive the probate for it, we're charged interest on that, which is 2 to 3 times higher than what we're earning on that money.
Because of the change in interest rates, yeah.
So we pay out more interest generally on those bonds than we ever
We
receive.
couldn't invest the money, but we can't.
Yeah. Not in anything. It's very strict as to...
Yeah. All right. So can I have a mover that we accept that report?
Yeah.
Councillor Smith, seconder.
Who's it?
This is riveting. Councillor Smith moved it.
David.
I'm trying to wake everybody up. Councillor Carlton has seconded that, and I'm putting the motion. Those in favour say aye.
I thought I was on my own there for a minute.
I did too. Yeah. I thought we were going to lapse. Yeah. Executive Services report.
Question to
Yep.
General Manager, has there been any feedback on the refusal,
On the,
The what?
on the DA that was refused for,
no,
33.
that's a good question, because I was wondering what they are doing. When we met with them, they advised that they would be trying to design a proposal that fitted in with the definition of a dwelling, and I advised them I would send that off to be reviewed by the council solicitors, so that they weren't, investing good money after bad, if you like. But they haven't come back to me yet, so that's where it's at.
It's in limbo. Any question on this report from Max?
Pictures of the canteen and that look good, don't they? They happy with that
At the rec ground.
at the rec ground, Wariata rec ground?
Ellie, you'd know more than I would. Pretty good, isn't it?
Really? Are you happy with the canteen at the rec ground?
I haven't actually been down there, to tell you the truth.
Looks
Well,
good.
you're pretty slack. You should have been there to look.
I will go and have a look.
At the building.
The toilet block at the showground will be completed for the show.
yes,
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
And it's
sure of that.
going to be a great asset.
Oh, I'm going to do it now.
I think when we were there yesterday, the painter was there, but the tiling over on the shower section has almost been completed. And so it'll be a great asset to our showground.
Yeah.
What about-
Unfortunately, they won't get onto the refurb of the old building until after the show, but that's okay. It'll be there for the following year.
Yeah.
Pretty busy boys, those fellas, and they're doing a great job.
And you see the notation about the death of Jeff Leach there. I think it was incredible the impact that man made coming from England, living in Bingra, and the respect he gained and the things he did. He was a pretty special person.
Very special
And,
person.
The building, the Nicholson Oval.
Yes.
How's that building going?
I haven't been up there for a little while, Mish, I don't
I
know.
went and had,
There's a fair bit of brickwork going on there, Matt.
yeah,
I don't know exactly, well, they're probably 3/4 finished, the brickwork, I think.
yeah,
They're
because
going pretty hard there, I know that.
they've got every minor league team in Morialda.
Yep.
That's a big day. No
Yep.
toilets.
When's that?
Minor league starts this week.
Oh, so you're talking every weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first 4 games they've got away, but the next one's at home.
The other one's all gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This was coordinated with the, the relevant sort of bodies, but yeah, I don't know the timeline, but I'll find out
Yeah,
and get back to you.
yeah.
But if it's on, Mads, I'll probably have to take a shortcut and go across to the club. Just go across.
It's not that far across there, if the club will let them.
straight across.
Yeah, I know that. But
Depends
what
how
I'm saying
quickly
is,
you
look
need
at
to
the
get
amount of
there.
people.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
I know,
jeez.
I know what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, I think it should have been started about September, October, when minor league was finished, to try and have it ready for this season.
Yeah, right.
Mr Mayor, just another one. As I was coming in today, when you come off the bridge here, they must be laying cable, are they, in the streets there? And digging up all the footpaths?
No, that's.
They're laying a footpath. Yeah.
The new foot, that was part of the,
I thought it was part of the blokes on the bridge. 'Cause they
no,
had
no, the
cable
foot, you
down-
mean down here where the footpath's
no.
going?
No, over
No,
here.
up here,
Up
coming
here,
off
come
the
on.
bridge.
Come off the bridge.
Off Halls
Yeah.
Creek Bridge.
Left hand side coming
Yeah,
down.
no, that's
around the
just an extension of the
New
path to
footpath.
connect up to the
Yeah,
existing.
corner. Yeah, right.
That was part of that big river dreaming thing that was
Yes, yeah.
before.
I just thought it might have been something to do with the bridge because they had cables that poked down under the bridge there doing something.
No.
I don't know what they're doing on the bridge.
Took me about half an hour to get across.
Yeah, it took me ages this morning.
It took me half an hour to get through Warrialda.
Did it?
Oh, just a traffic jam.
Yeah.
There was about
Oh, yeah.
15 caravans, school buses.
That's good.
Semi-trailers and a bloody gopher had broken down. We've got more gophers in Warrialda now than bloody anything else.
I hate it when I drive out my gate and I've got to wait for a car.
that's something we should be looking at too is, I don't know if it's up to us, but I know about 8 years ago, they had they held a school for the gophers to tell them where they could go and where they couldn't go. And a lot of them are just driving up the main street. And
You've got to hope.
I don't know if it's our to do with us or whether it's to do with Hack. I think Hack.
Hack ran the last
I
week.
hope they can remember it, that's the thing.
I think most people are pretty generous with them and pull up when they have to.
Yeah.
Putting up with the tolerant with them, I suppose.
Are you
Yeah.
talking advanced driving school?
I am.
Expensive driving.
Yeah, you know.
Right. It's more like Alex's department.
Yeah, they hacked one quite a few years ago.
Yeah,
It's not a bad idea though, because I think that
because a lot of them don't understand.
when Nancy Cable got hit that time, it was just too fast.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's still go very fast.
yeah. But the new ones today, you
Have a
can
thing
only,
on them.
yeah, they've got a thing that's I think it's 15 k's or something. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
very fast at all.
You shouldn't be doing that down the footpath in the main street because that'll knock
Yeah,
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 at that place.
Skateboarders go quicker than that.
yeah.
Oh, they do. All right, this office recommendation report be received. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Galvin's going to take it all, and Councillor Matthews. Put the motion. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against no carried. Turn over the page and we go to Organisation Community Services report. That's probably where I should have been asking my question about now. Has anybody got anything there? Any questions?
This, where I can answer that ask that in this one, can I? The caravan park. Where are we up in Bingra? Where are we up to with that? Power for the new building,
Yeah, that's,
amenities. Or?
as I understand it, all the appropriate approvals are in place and Curry Power will be undertaking the work quite soon.
Just to connect
Should be
the-
finished before the end of May.
That's all we're waiting on, isn't it, the electricity?
And where are we up to with the advertising?
For it all.
Yeah, the information's been put together to advertise both pools.
And Caravan Park?
You're
If,
talking
if
about-
the people are interested in it, yeah.
Sorry?
There was no interest before to do both, but we'll put it out there again and see if there's, because it has changed if we can guarantee the accommodation unit.
The residents, yeah.
Well, we should be able to, shouldn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we should.
That's a good sum of money out of the honesty box, isn't it? $357. I don't know how often is that monthly or they empty it on the river?
I
is it?
honestly don't know how often
No.
they empty it. Oh, but
I think it'd be more often than that because they
Yeah,
have terrible
probably
trouble
is.
them getting broken into.
I guess that figure's a monthly figure, but
Yeah, that would be the month.
that's better than what we were getting. We didn't have a box there at all.
What's that? The
Honesty box
donations at the honesty box are on
on
the
the
river.
river.
They should have filled them up at Easter, they were packed.
Jeff, have you been into the fitness centre or Oriel, I suppose?
No,
you haven't.
I haven't. I should go in there. So.
We have had a lot of positive community feedback. We actually had someone from Warialda speak to a Warialda admin person saying how good it was. That
Oh, that's good.
because I haven't actually been to the Warialda gym, but previously the door must have been frosted so you couldn't see out, and now the door is clear. So the ladies were really appreciative of that because they could see outside to see if anyone was there of a night time before they left the building.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas previously they couldn't, so they actually feel a lot safer using the gym of a night time that they can know before they leave if anyone is hanging around outside.
Very good. Would somebody like to move the recommendation?
So moved.
Councillor Carlton, seconded by Councillor Moore. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No, carried. You can see the customer service requests there, and then we go on to the action report. I better keep it. Now, the activity report. Yeah, that must be the other way. Here it is. Council activity report to be noted, I guess, but you can see everyone's been pretty busy. Plenty on. We'd like to move that report be received. Councillor Galvin, seconded Councillor Smith. The motion, those in favour say aye. Aye. It's now carried. We can do councillors' reports now, if you would happy to do them outside confidential session. We can, if you've got anything that you wanted to speak in confidence, we can leave that, but I'll start with you, Dave. Nothing from you?
Sorry, we had a disability meeting the other day, which I couldn't get to, but got the minutes and all that, which I've gone through. One of the topics is the stairs at the bank and access into that. Now, there's lots going on. I've just actually emailed Sarah back, who's done a lot of work for it. Although we do have issues getting into the bank, I do worry about pushing the issues the way the banks are in not only small, like rural towns at the moment, but major centres and closing up. I just worry because that building is privately owned and rented out to the bank, or leased out to the bank, the issue will fall back on the owner. And I just worry if we do push it too much, that would give the bank another excuse to shut the doors. So they are looking at all that, is what I'm trying to get at, and are looking at more disability parking. And Sarah Butler is on to it all at the moment, but I just thought I'd bring you up to date.
Okay, Councillor Dixon?
Yes, I spoke to Max about this. There's a tree in the park down here. It's not a very big tree, and I've had a few people ask about it being painted blue,
Yeah?
and it's not a very big one. And also,
It is painted blue, or you want to...
no, we wanted painted
Someone
blue.
paints it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have to register with Beyond Blue to actually do it. I don't think you can just paint
I
it.
don't know that you do. I mean, you probably want to, but I think you can paint a tree if you want to.
Yeah, but I think they like it to be
Yeah,
registered
it's
and
probably.
put out there.
I've already passed it on to Andrew to investigate.
Oh, good. And I was just wondering, we often cancel a meeting and all that. Could we have just one council meeting for all day, once a month?
Instead
Or
of
we still
meeting-
gonna, instead of having the two? I don't know.
It's a choice that council can make, Councillor Dixon. I don't know. I think you tend to get too far out of touch if you don't meet
Oh, fair
on a
enough.
regular basis. But it's, I'm happy to entertain it if that's what way you'd like to go.
Yeah, that's what I want, yeah.
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 That's what you'd like. Yeah.
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 No, I just thought, we often cancel one and then we're gonna catch up and,
Yeah.
yeah. And also the houses at the Living Classroom, now, for instance, I know it's gonna be a very busy, Orange Festival.
Yeah.
If can they rent them out? Like,
Yes, they can be rented out, although, once again, they're waiting for electricity to be connected.
oh, God, bloody,
But that should be done certainly
It's a little bit of time. Yeah.
by there.
yeah. Oh, well, I hope there is a bit of time because those gardens in the street weren't doing badly.
Well, it's the end of June, isn't it? So it's 2 months at least.
Yeah. I think that's all I had.
Thank you. Around the room, Jeff, Councillor Smith,
No, I've got nothing at this
No.
stage.
Chris,
No.
no, Kelly.
Yeah, John, I mentioned it to Helen last night, but when we pay account, when Guida Shire pays their accounts, it's still coming up on statements as Bingara Shire Council.
No, yeah.
And, I just,
I think it's just a reference to your creditor number, which
Yeah,
I'll
right.
get them to fix it.
yeah, no, that's all
It's
right.
not all of them, it's just,
Yeah.
there must be ones that come over.
Now, I reported this earlier with Bob Swain was getting paid by Bingara Shire Council on his
Yeah, right.
paperwork, and it doesn't exist. It's hardly legal.
I'll get the reference changed.
Is it? It's the bank that's doing it. Is it?
Well, I'd say within our creditor system, when the creditor numbers come over from our old system, the reference was just set as Bingara Shire Council for Rotary.
But Morealda Rotary would never been on the Bingara
Yeah,
credit system.
but I'd say our data we would have pulled
Oh, yeah, okay.
and imported it back when we amalgamated. The data would have been transferred to Guida.
Yeah, well, it needs addressing, I think, very urgently.
It's only a minor thing, but yeah, I just thought I'd bring it up. No, other than that, John, no, nothing.
Thank you.
That's it.
Councillor
Thank you.
Mulligan?
A couple of things, Mr Mayor. I heard a comment the other day, it was pleasing to see the condition of the roads improving around the Shire. So I think it's really good, and credit to the staff. So, also, the folk at Yalleroy Hall said to say a big thank you to the council for helping with the Anzac Day service, mowing and keeping the hall tidy, etc., and everything. So they said a big thank you to the council as well. The only other thing I would comment is just, the Guida News, I think, and we have talked about, needs a little bit of a revamp to try to get to more people. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you.
I think they're doing a wonderful job with the
Oh, yeah,
Guida
too.
News.
Well, I asked that question last night at the community meeting in Milstar, and there
And
was
if
only
people
about
don't put
two
anything
people that
in,
were getting it.
Yeah.
It's free online.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
we've had that issue with posting things out. We can't fix that. We've tried to fix it.
no, but if it's
So
free, online's the best way to go.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Online, I think, as I said to what's her name, Sally,
Sally.
was it? Yeah, part of the problem is when it comes online, is it goes into this program, and it's really hard I can't get it out of it half the time. It takes so long to load the thing, and I can't blow it up on the screen. I have a lot of problems with it. So if people get frustrated with it, they're not going to bother reading,
I had a
unfortunately.
problem the other day with it, just sitting at home, and I thought, I'll have a look at this, and it took forever.
Yeah, that's the problem. And so if that happens, I mean, we're in the now generation. Everything's got to happen now. And I just sort of said, I just sort of was saying that it needs to be almost like some of the members of Parliament have it just comes out once a week as a little picture and a little bit of the activities been happening during the week.
We're certainly looking at that, and maybe it needs to be a simpler publication so it will load. That'll be noted, I dare say, by the General Manager.
Can I just make a comment about
Yes.
that? I've got the opportunity to canvass who's computer savvy and who's not computer savvy amongst the oldies. And anyone over 70 in Bingara, present company accepted, is challenged.
Yeah.
You know,
Keep
they
going,
won't-
keep going a bit lower than that, Chris.
Well, you know, as a generalisation, I ask people,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
can you look up this piece of medical information online?
Yeah.
And they say, I'll get my daughter to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't know what you do. I guess we make the publication the way it is, where you can have it printed or you can get online.
Yeah.
I was referring more to the outlying areas really for the online business.
When we travelled, sorry, just stop the subject, but about roads again. When we travelled last night to North Star, I actually thought, and I made the comment coming home, the road was great. Like there was, I mean, I know we took a main route there. We didn't go sidetrack or anything this time.
Didn't you go by Goat Road?
No,
Come down the Orient
And the
Road.
road was the road was very good.
Didn't Catherine give you a map before she
different driver.
Do you want to talk at the Cropper meeting this evening instead of me?
I think your knowledge
I
is
know
very
that,
good.
I know that Catherine's been on Goat Road before, but she didn't know where she was.
We
Yeah.
were with her,
Oh,
weren't we, Mash?
Yeah, on the that was all I was going to speak about was the community meetings. Thank you very much. Truly rolled up last night, both staff and elected members. Incredible. Very good meeting, friendly meeting. And why wouldn't it be when spending so much money out there?
Yeah, they shouldn't have had any complaint about it.
They didn't really.
No.
But what I wasn't aware of was the rural crime. That was brought
Yeah,
up.
I didn't know.
And Ben Colton rang me to follow up on that this morning, and he'd been speaking to Kate Dites, the Deputy Mayor of Inverell Council, and they've got the same problem and exactly the same thoughts, and he's suggesting that we start a petition, and then so it can get to Adam Marshall and then be presented in Parliament. Probably not a bad idea. The problem is hard to address politically because of the perpetrators. And you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable by the media, and therein lies the problem.
Did you hear about Stuart McJewell's wife?
No,
She was the one in the car at the Moree spa bus that got
really?
attacked with the baseball bat, and her and her son were in the car.
no,
Very.
yeah,
I think that the lot of problem is too, you never see the police walking the streets now.
No.
And if you see them, if your kids see them, surely but you don't see them.
This is particularly rural crime where you're not
yeah.
going to see a policeman.
Well, that's right too.
and then what we've got to try and address with a petition is to get the magistrates to be harder on the
Yeah, that's the
people that are
problem.
charged, and it's not so much the police; it's the system. The judicial system's not working. And you know, it's a terrible climate to try and do anything with.
But I think you're right. I think we've got shire councils make up a big area in Australia. And we should have a lot more clout on these sort of things. If every council, say in New South Wales, I suppose it's a state thing, put in a submission that we've got youth crime, we've got to do something about it. And get every shire council to push for it. Surely the state government's got to start looking at it.
I mean, you only have to look, Jeff, just in both Binga and Wariata. Like, we've got one copper. Like, I mean,
That would be right down.
We'll just say
East
that
alley,
that's-
wouldn't
The other
it's
one-
probably more than just the cops. The whole
system. Yeah.
Just the way, you know, a lot of these young blokes, and I've heard of Gundawindi and Toowoomba's really bad now,
Yeah.
but a lot of these young blokes that I think they own the place now, and and the number of times they this is our place, you know, and so crime doesn't sort of, I don't know, there's got to be a change in attitudes and.
I think we're the silent majority in this case, and I think we've probably sat in our hands long enough.
Yep.
And we need to take some action and do whatever we can do. We're coming from a very weak point of view, I know, but we need to. I agree. I think we should get on with it.
I agree.
Max was just suggesting we could get it on the agenda for country mayors, where they're all like-minded people.
Ken, I think I brought this up before with some other subject, but yeah, to try and get all councils on board. I can't remember what it was there now. It's about a couple of years ago, but and I don't think any came of it. But is there an agenda where we can put it out there to other councils, saying we want to, who will come on board on this, youth crime business. I mean,
Yeah, the only place you can do that really is at a conference, and we get eaten alive at conferences.
yeah, I know.
Good mildly, don't we?
And we enjoy it.
Yeah. But Jeff, there's no need to stop. No, I think we need to do that.
No. Well, Ben brought up a good point last night. You know, he's out. I don't have an account this, but you know, he's talking about shutting. You know, and I've often thought, even at home, or what was my home before.
Yeah.
You know, we'd go away for 3 weeks and wouldn't lock a door, but now, you know, you're seeing people poking around and hearing of people poking around.
Well, I think what concerned me the most was he said they come into your home.
Yeah.
They can come and pinch fuel, that's one thing, but coming into your own.
Yeah,
personal
that's
domain,
right.
That's
And that's happened in Wariata. I saw that post not long ago where a lady was asleep and someone was walking in their house in Wariata while they're asleep. Like, I mean, and it comes down to, like last night when they were speaking about locking the gates. I mean, they'll soon climb a fence, but the thing with locking a gate, if you need to get out in a hurry, like if there's something going on and you need to get out in a hurry, you've got to stop and unlock that gate of your own property, which causes other issues.
It's new territory, isn't it? We've never been faced with this before.
It's been happening in Tamworth for years.
John, surely there must be some avenue as a council that we can put it on there where other councils see. I mean, you look at the things that come onto our thing every day, you know, with, I don't know, you would think there'd be some...
Yes, Councillor Matthew.
Everybody knows the problem, but nobody knows the solution.
No, that's right.
You know, so
Nobody's
you're going to
game.
suggest something gets done. You can't do what they do in the Northern Territory, because what you finish up is people getting advanced skills in crime in jail. So it's a deep social problem.
It is, but nobody's game to take it on because you get crucified in the media as soon as you mention something like this, and there's no politician that'll front up to it.
Yeah, we can't just keep putting it in the too hard basket.
I
You
mean,
can't,
and the
like,
bloody
nothing's
media
going
have
to be
got
done.
step up
Give
and
up.
start
You can't do that.
saying how it is instead of
It's a bit like Ben said last night. There's something bad going to happen out of this, and he's right, isn't he? I mean, we saw it at a different scenario, but at Cropper Creek, and that's what I think he was referring to.
So it's going to get revert to the wild, wild west type of activity again.
Now, I know that. I know this is getting very dramatic, isn't it? But in I don't know which state it was in the United States, but a fellow entered another person's house and he was shot and killed. And the judge said that this man had retreated as far as he was expected to, back to his own home. Therefore, he was not charged. So I don't know that it'll come to that. But
just on the news this morning, there was a group of young people that entered a house and stole some money. I don't know if any other people heard it on the ABC News, but it was reminded me last night. Bernadette was saying how they go in groups of 5. They go in. This guy woke up with a torch in his face, which is exactly what Bernadette was saying.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I would suggest that we do start some sort of action on this.
Yeah. I'll certainly take it to the country mayors, and we can write a letter to every Shire council. And
that's right.
Well, could we do that? I mean, to get the ball rolling. I mean, to formulate a letter saying that we're particularly concerned about this, and can other and please return a message saying you're on board, or you know, if we got a big whack of people or council saying we're on board with that, and then we can push it.
And they all should be.
Huh?
They all should be on board.
Well, they might all come on board. It's a fairly big.
The rural
issue.
councils will be. I don't think the city ones will. But it'd be nice to get that letter into the LG New South Wales newsletter of its weekly thing.
Well, that's the one. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's it from me on council reports. We might break for morning tea, All right. Call the meeting back to order, and I'm looking for a motion to go into confidential session. Good, please.
Councillor Galvin.
Councillor Galvin, Councillor Colton, those in favour say aye. Aye. No, carried. Right. Righto, so we are now, the recommendations from the
Committee of the Whole.
Committee confidential items, yeah.
On the, from the Confidential Organisation and Community Services report, the committee recommendation is that the report be received and noted. In relation to the mayoral recommendation from the mayoral minute, the recommendation is that the General Manager's contract be extended from 9th October 2024 to Friday the 4th of July 2025 on the terms and conditions outlined in the mayoral report.
And that was all. Let's go into the general meeting now, and I ask that somebody present might like to move the adoption of those recommendations. Councillor Galvin, seconded Councillor Matthews. To put that motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. There being no further business, thank you very much for your attendance, and I close the meeting.